We now move on to the first session of the day. The session is on discussion about career opportunities available in public market research. This session will help in understanding the key skills needed to enter in research and investment management of various asset classes or markets, as well as the current hiring trends in the industry. We invite the speakers of this session. So for this session, we have amongst us Mr. Pramod Gopi, CFA, Managing Director, Head of Equities, Ambit Capital. Mr. Gopi, I would like you to come to the stage as I introduce you. Mr. Gopi has over 15 years of experience across diverse sectors and markets. Currently, he leads the institutional equities business at Ambit Capital. Previously, Mr. Gopi has worked with Execution Noble, Clear Capital, Excel Technologies and Philips. A CFA charter holder, he is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and has a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering from NIT Karnataka. Please have a seat. Welcome. The next speaker of the session is Mr. Navneet Munot. Mr. Navneet Munot, CFA, Chief Investment Officer at SBI Funds Management, is responsible for overseeing investments worth over $30 billion across various asset classes in mutual funds and segregated accounts. Earlier, he was the Executive Director and Head of Multi-Strategy Boutique at Morgan Stanley Investment Management. Mr. Munot is a postgraduate in Accountancy and Business Statistics, holds the Chartered Accountant, CFA, FRM and CIA designation. Mr. Navneet Munot also serves as the Director in the Board of CFA Society India. Welcome, Mr. Navneet. The next speaker of the session is Mr. Sampath Reddy. Mr. Sampath Reddy, CFA, is the CIO at Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance, where he manages the firm's funds and is responsible for the overall investment performance of the company. Previously, he served as a fund manager at Principal Mutual Fund. Mr. Reddy has also worked as an equity research analyst at HSBC Securities and ABN AMRO Asia Equities. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in business management besides being a CFA. Welcome, Mr. Sampath. The moderator of this session is Mr. Anil Gilani. Mr. Anil Gilani, CFA, is the Senior Vice President at DFP BlackRock, where he is responsible for products and passive investments. Previously, Anil has served as the Business Head and Chief Investment Officer at DSP BlackRock Pension Fund Managers, where he was responsible for monitoring portfolio risk and buy-side credit research on companies across various sectors. He also serves in a volunteer capacity as a Director of CFA Society India. Welcome, Anil, to the session. I would like to inform you that during the session, we have question cards which are available with our representatives there. In case you have any questions, you can write your questions on the question card and hand them back to the representative, which will be collected and discussed by the speakers after the end of the session. Anil, I request you to take the session forward.
Sure, wonderful. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. And wish all of you a very good morning and very warm welcome on behalf of the CFA Society India and CFA Institute and all my fellow voluntary colleagues out here who have put this event together. Today it's my honor and privilege to speak to all of you guys out here and to anchor this very high profile and very dynamic group of people out here. Today when we talk about public markets in general, what comes to mind is public equities, what comes to mind today. And we compare it, let's say, about 10 to 15 years ago. Things have really changed dynamically and are changing constantly. I remember distinctly about 2000, 2001 when I started my career in financial markets. At that time, industry was very small, very limited. When one talks about public markets, it's either you are part of a broking firm as a sell-side analyst or you are part of a buy-side fund as a kind of a mutual fund as an analyst out there. Today the entire landscape has changed significantly. In sell-side research, not just broking firms, but there are many independent research providers. In buy-side, not just mutual funds, there are large players like insurance companies, there are large players like PMS providers, and in the recently evolving trends from 2013 onwards, a lot of AIFs, alternative investment funds, a lot of newer elements, newer animals evolving within AIF space, so many boutique firms being set up. So the entire landscape from an external perspective, as you visualize it, is significantly increasing for public markets, for equity, public equities. A lot of unique funds are being worked on, which are having a pipe type of approach. Private investments in the public listed equities, a pipe approach. Unique funds, unique opportunities being created in that. In all of this context, the capital markets have resulted in a significant increase in the depth and the volumes and the trading which happens in the markets. With all of that background, I think today what we plan to do over the next about 45 minutes to an hour is try and get a sense from the panelists over here with the engaging discussion and the Q&A. What my colleague just mentioned, there are question cards. Please keep jotting down questions as they come to mind. We'll try to come up with some kind of answer, some kind of perspective as to what one should look at if you are looking or if you are working in a career in public equities. What should one look at if you are aspiring to be part of the public equities? What type of hiring trends are going on? And what context do you think of in the next 10 to 15 years sitting today? To start with, I think I'll pose my first question to Navneet. Navneet, from the perspective of the overall public markets, and you see from a very small evolving stage where people were being absorbed in the marketplace, were very different talents, very different skill sets. But how do you see the hiring trends today in the asset management industry, like in the buy side, in mutual fund space?
So you rightly said that in last 10 years things have changed a lot, but I think still we are at a very early stage of the growth of the asset management industry. So if you see everybody talks about how mutual funds have grown so much over the last 3 or 4 years, assets have doubled, but even at the current size of 22 lakh crore, $350 billion or so, we are less than 15% of the GDP, which is like much smaller than any other part of the world. And if you look at some of the other larger trends in the economy is getting more and more formalized. Large number of people, and with disintermediation, large number of people will access capital markets, both for debt as well as their equity needs. We are seeing a digitalization of finance, which is leading to financialization of savings. More and more savings coming into the capital market, into the financial markets. Another interesting trend which is underway on very initial stage is what I call the financialization of assets. So we have a large real estate market, but that's kind of an informal market, or people are directly buying properties, but at some point in time people will take exposure through REITs or real estate funds. We had few InvITs, but I think we have a long way to go because of whatever experience the investors had in the first 1 or 2 issuance. But over a period of time, given the sheer need of the infrastructure in India or the investment needs in India and the large part of the savings that you have, I think they will get matched through the asset management. You look at the pension fund industry, they just started investing in equities, that too in large cap ETFs 2 years back, and it's still a very small part. But you look at globally how the pension fund industry has evolved. I mean, they look at variety of other instruments, they diversify their portfolios, and that's another angle there, like almost 50-60% of the mutual fund assets, they will grow. If you look at the number of people employed in the pension fund industry in India, they are like a fraction of the mutual fund industry, and the people in mutual fund industry is a fraction of what it can be in next few years. So there are huge amount of opportunities. You talked about the alternative assets, the portfolio management services, and then the whole ecosystem which will get built around it. And I'm sure there are a couple of sessions that you have on the wealth management, etc. So there are going to be huge need of talented people in this industry, but the trends are changing. So you asked about the hiring trends. So maybe some of the skill sets which are relevant few years back, the kind of technological changes that are happening. These are what I call the democratization of information. So maybe somebody who is just kind of trying to get some information from the annual reports or from the public sources, maybe you need different kinds of skills. You need to have a lot more maybe quantitative skills going forward. I'm sure there will be time when Indians will also use artificial intelligence and machine learning, and there are a lot of things that are happening around the fintechs, etc. And they will also play some role. But the basic analytic skills will always be in demand, and I'm sure I think all of these I think segments within the asset management have a long way to go.
And what would be that one specific drill down in terms of specific to let's say mutual fund space, or maybe you can think of your context as a hirer that you have in your team. Typically, what type of skill sets you get, or what type, do you do lateral hirings, or do you try to do fresher hirings, or it's mixed across the type of role you want, or any light on that basically to help the.
So I think a mix of all. There are freshers that we hire, not too many, but still we hire research associates. But look at the asset management industry, you need analysts, you have fund managers. Of course, that comes with an experience either as an analyst or maybe some of the traders also become fund managers over a period of time. You need traders, you need quantitative analysts, you need economists. Then there is a new category which is very small in India as of now, which is like investment specialists, where the fund managers have very limited time to communicate with the external world, and these people are kind of a bridge between the fund management and the investor or the distributor community, and they are like kind of part of the investment team, but the larger role is basically communicating that. I think that will grow over a period of time. You will need, as I mentioned, quant specialists, and as you build the other businesses, whether related to commodities, there is hardly any institutional participation as of now, but markets will evolve over a period of time. We have some people here. Markets will evolve over a period of time, so we need those specialists. When real estate market develop, I think a lot of people who are in, let's say, real estate industry today may actually be the right fit for when the real estate funds get set up. So I think there will be need for people with different kinds of educational as well as the experience background. But of course, the basic analytical ability which the CFA inculcates in it will be relevant for all of these roles. And we encourage. So I hired a guy for AI and machine learning, and he doesn't know F of finance, he doesn't know E of equity, but then I'm encouraging him to take up CFA. But everybody else, whether he's a trader in my team, economist in my team, most of the fund managers, everybody will encourage that take CFA. Whatever background it comes with, but still the CFA.
To summarize, I think Navneet's perspective is very important, that in the marketplace, basic skill sets of analytic capability will definitely always have to be there as a core. But a lot of new things, a lot of things from technology perspective, from quant perspective, various aspects will keep growing and will be a huge requirement in the future. I think jumping to Sampath, okay, Sampath being part of the insurance side, on the buy side, again on the side, how do you see hiring trends in your part of the marketplace? Some perspective from that side.
So the hiring industry in the investment management side has come a sea change over the last 20 years. Initial 7-8 years I was in the sell side research. I was as an analyst in the sell side research companies, and later 12, 13 years I was in the fund management side, on the buy side. So in the initial 7-8 years, we used to have a team of only 6-7 max. 7 was probably the highest in terms of the research team at that point of time. Most of the funds, most of the brokerages used to have 5-6 analysts. There was no research associate concept. Everything you need to do yourself. And today, if you look at it, for each sector there are a team of analysts. And that's how the industry has grown in the last several years. And when it comes to the new avenues where the employment opportunities happening towards the investment managers or the analysts, one of the things is insurance. For example, in '97 when I started, there was nothing like an insurance sector which were hiring investment managers. It all happened, when I was one of the products, early products in terms of, seeing the benefits of the new vertical getting opened up in India. Insurance sector got opened up in 2002-03, and by the time 2005-06, by then, mostly all insurance companies, early ones started building their investment team. I was initial part of those teams in the buy side at that point of time. So now today, insurance industry also employs similar amount of people in terms of, like that of an asset management industry. And as you see, the other things which are now growing, which is mostly like PMS and AF, etc., these funds, they're today again, by and large, one-man, two-man kind of teams. The way early part of the brokerage industry where 5-6 analyst team. I mean, I'm sure over a period of time as assets grow, they will also be becoming a bigger and bigger employers in the going forward. So that's how the the growth potential is quite immense. It's already grown tremendously in the last 20 years. I think the potential continues to be quite.
Sure. Questions and more. Please do keep noting down your questions. I have a chance to keep asking whenever I want. So one more question before I let it go. So far is that something similar to what Navneet mentioned. Typically, your teams or how you perceive insurance industry buy side to hire. Do you do more of lateral hirings or do you prefer sometimes freshers and like as you try to segment? In some part, yes, we want freshers in fact, in a very new perspective. How do you see that aspect?
Yeah. So given that current team sizes are relatively small, like for example, we as a company at Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance have about 8,000 plus people, and investment team is just about 16, 17 people. So relatively, we are a small team, and that's why we don't have a large requirement in terms of the people. Once in a year, you could see some 1 or 2 vacancies keep coming up. So most of the time, it will be lateral. As I said, the industry was relatively nascent. Almost entire team members of mine is either come from a mutual fund space or from the brokerage industry as an analyst. So today, if I were to look at whether how much I could take from the freshers, last 3 years I've added one person each from the freshers, because my HR people were going to the various schools, campuses. Every time they said investment is one of the places where a lot of demand was there from the colleges. I've taken last 3 years one person. So now I don't think I would want to add one more person as a fresher, because within the team of the 15, 16 people, I can't skew more towards the lesser experienced people. So probably as a couple of years down the line, maybe I could still take 1 or 2 more freshers. But largely it is the lateral, because team sizes are small. We want people to just get on with their sectors and quickly add value. So that's how it is.
Okay. Thanks, Sampath.
And secondly, in the investment team, so when we think about asset management or sell side or buy side, we only think of that role. But the people in my product team, a lot of them are CFA charter holders. People in our digital team, a lot of people in our sales, because there's far better equipped. And there's always an opportunity of lateralship. So one of my trader came from the product side. One of my quant analysts, she came from the product and marketing team. So there are opportunities when the industry is growing fast, there are opportunities everywhere.
Always in the lateral. That's a very good perspective. That when we think of jobs in either insurance, mutual funds, AIFs, etc., it's not always just poor asset management that this is the money I have to deploy or this is the money I have to make sure the trades are placed well. There are a lot of other ancillary areas which need deep research, which need deep thinking, which need deep quantitative aspects, like Navneet mentioned. Maybe it might be product role, risk management function, sales function. So many of colleagues in mutual fund sales, private wealth management sales, we are having a separate session panel on wealth management, but so many people in that space are CFA charter holders with very deep insights and research.
So if you ask me, one of the biggest opportunity in the next few years is in the credit space.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at what's happening in the entire banking space, and with the way regulation is changing over the next few years, disintermediation is going to be a very large trend where large number of companies, the government is encouraging it, the regulators wants to encourage it, where all the borrowing will shift to the capital markets. And the talent on the credit side is actually far lesser, simply because wherever I go in any of the college or any of these kind of events and you ask people, they want to be in equity research, they want to be in investment banking, they want to be in consulting. They sound like very glamorous. But very rarely I hear from someone that I want to build a career in credit research. But that's where, even the banks, I don't think any bank, when they put a job post that they write credit research, but that's going to be a large
Absolutely, I
space.
completely.
Me and Vidhu and some of us, we went to meet the RBI governor 3-4 years back, and he said that your community should work a lot more towards improving the ability on the credit, building the capability on the credit research side within the banking system.
Thanks, Navneet. I think that gives a very good idea to all of us that in 2019, when we do the second edition of the FTS in Delhi NCR, the first panel is not going to be with all of us over here, it's going to be the credit research and fixed income panel. So definitely that's going to be something in mind. Pramod, coming to you from sell side research perspective, on equity side specifically, how do you see hiring trends, and like, where do you think talent pools come from in sell side part of it? Like something similar to what Navneet and Deepak mentioned. Do you have presumably larger allocation or larger percentage coming from freshers versus as compared to the buy side, or some perspective from your side?
No, look, sell side itself has gone through a paradigm shift, right? Yeah. So it started off as pretty much funded by investment banking, right? So investors rarely paid for sell side research. Correct. So as and when electronic trading came into place, commission rates fell. Brokers had to justify why they had to get those commissions, and to stem the decline, they started bundling in research and lots of other services, which is now deemed as soft dollars. That was when the emergence of sell side as an extension of the buy side happened in terms of helping buy side make those investment decisions. Now with both technology and regulatory changes globally, particularly MiFID, I think that change is accelerating. We are seeing the emergence of independent research like never before. In fact, me and my colleagues had started an independent research way back in 2003. We were perhaps 15 years too early in terms of that change. It's taken that much long for it to emerge, but better late than never. I think the industry needs that because it's inherently conflicted to serve two masters on the investment banking side. The corporates and the investors. No matter how much you try to develop a win-win, it's never the case. And hence, the emergence of independent research means the sort of talent you hire also changes dramatically. Because ultimately, you're seeing yourself as an extension of the buy side, and your job is to help the buy side deliver alpha. And to do that, I think the sort of skills or the change in skills is also coinciding with the change in the broader global economy itself, right? So there are barriers being broken across sectors. Today, every sector is a technology sector. To that extent, you can't call yourself an industry expert without having skills across multiple domains. And in fact, the best investment managers in the world have suggested a very diverse set of reading inputs, meeting people to develop that skill set, as opposed to say 15 years ago where you had worked in a certain industry for some time, you could be called an industry expert. Today that's not the case. So to that extent, the hiring trends are also getting changed, and I tend to agree with what Navneet said. I think freshers become a very important part of hiring in this new world, because we want people to come with a clean slate in terms of the thinking, to adapt to the changes that we're seeing in global economics, global business, and to be able to bring fresh perspective. Often experience tends to become baggage. It's very difficult for people to change those embedded thoughts in them. To that extent, from our own perspective at Ambit, we are on what we call as the continuous recruitment program. We hire when talent is available rather than when we need. Often, from a cyclical perspective, it is very hard to hire when you need it, because today, let's say, hope it's not the top of the bull market, but we are clearly in a very exciting time in the market where there is demand for talent. It is very difficult to pick up good quality talent. But at the same time, we've seen if you had been on a continuous recruitment program through the downturn of, say, 2011, 12, 13, where we've had our best people join us, and those have been the best dividends for us in terms of having added value to the firm's growth. And to that extent, we've said that associates are always welcome, provided you bring the right perspective. And to add to it, I think we are very aggressive in terms of internships. We've always found people who come in as interns, there is a mutual beneficial relationship built in, because from the recruit's perspective as well, it's a very long exposure to the job at hand to be able to understand, is this something that I'd like to do for the rest of my life, or at least for the next 3 to 5 years. But at the same time, it's easier for the recruiter to appreciate the talent that's at its disposal, rather than spend 2, 3, 4 hours interviewing the individuals. Simply doesn't do justice to the talent. Over a 2-3 month internship program, it's easier to assess that. So yeah, I mean, we continue to hire a lot of freshers. Laterals are more need-based, but the bulk of the hiring is through our associate program. So whenever we have any sort of attrition at the analyst level, there is an automatic push up from his or her associate to that analyst role. We rarely look lateral unless and until that associate is still fresh or not ready for the job. But we always prefer the build against the buy approach.
So I think Pramod is who's looking to start or who's looking to build a career in this area. You think from the perspective of commitments required, career growth, money, work-life balance, these four aspects. I mean, I'm trying to bundle a lot of things in one question, but very brief perspective from your side.
Well, like I said, given the change that we've seen in sell side, having started off as being funded by investment banking to now being seen as an extension of the buy side, even all those parameters have changed, particularly payoffs certainly have changed, unless and until you as a house have determined to keep investment banking at the core of your franchise, then there are these big payoffs. But otherwise, I don't think it's any different from the buy side now, especially for those houses which are determined to position themselves as an extension of the buy side. In terms of career growth, perhaps this is one of the most exciting professions, right? The number of opportunities it opens up is tremendous. Perhaps this, along with consulting, are the ones which give you an exposure across domains, across fields, and equip you to, change into any alternative career at any point in time. I've seen sell-side analysts go work as corporate strategists in firms, corporate financiers in firms, and even come up with an exciting business idea to become entrepreneurs themselves. I don't think there are too many other professions out there which give you that opportunity to grow laterally and do something very different from what you're doing now. In terms of work-life balance, that's unfortunately becoming a very outdated concept. There's hardly any difference between work and life to the extent that one feeds into the other. Most of our lives are becoming continuous to the extent that I've seen some of the best investment managers write in the newsletters how parenting has helped them in their professions.
Yeah.
So if you're spending time raising your kids, it has a lot of behavioral aspects, which is perhaps now in today's world of volatile asset markets, one of the biggest sources of advantage as an investment manager. So to that extent, whether you're at home taking care of your pets or running errands, there's always scope for you to bring it on to the work element. At the same time, take lessons from your work in terms of managing family and stuff. So it's increasingly becoming a very outdated concept, and especially in a day and age where information is available all the time.
Individually is available all the time. You are wherever in part of the world or vacation, you are available to everybody at world at large. Not just on your mobile phone, but on your social media profiles spread across LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Somebody has tagged you already by the time you realize and ask you 3 questions, you have to then come back and answer. So wonderful, thanks for that. And Navneet is not
on that work-life balance. I mean, if work is a duty, life is a slavery. I mean, if work is joy, then if work is pleasure, then life is joy. So think about this is my work and this is my life. I don't think that you really get the best out of life.
Absolutely. So I think to summarize till now, I think a couple of interesting points I would like to paraphrase. One thing, as one of the other questions that came up in the beginning, how the CFA designation is being recognized and what is being perceived. For example, how Navneet mentioned, across the function is organization, whether it's a trader or a research analyst or a product function or sales, people are encouraged to take up the CFA program. Automatically the awareness is spreading through his HR function, through his senior management. And yes, CFA program is important for career in overall my side of the industry in the CFA side. Likewise, as Pramod mentioned or as Sampath mentioned, that there are certain types of lateral hiring which happen, but a lot of hirings happen from freshers perspective also. So all of these things, little things are being done, connecting back to what Aarti mentioned in the beginning, that a huge brand campaign has been going on since the past about 1.5 to 2 years to enhance the awareness about the CFA program, to enhance the visibility and understanding of what a person having CFA charter has when he or she is talking to either clients or asset owners. Coming back very quickly to the discussion over here, Navneet, just one quick sort of rapid fire to take all the three panelists. What do you feel is a good analyst or an analyst valued more for? Yeah, important question. I'm asking on behalf of all of you guys over here. What do you feel is an analyst more valued for? His or her analytical capability? क्या भैया इन्होंने एकदम मस्त एकदम deep analysis करके present किया मेरे को, or for his or her temperament? With right now you please answer from focus on my side because that's what it is, and then I'll come to Pramod from sell side.
I guess it will be same, but I'm sure Pramod will have a good perspective. I think it's a mix of both. So of course you need the basic tools and you have to have the basic knowledge and you have to be a good analyst. So the analytical abilities are very, very important. But temperament, I mean the soft skill, everybody has the same amount of information, but the way you analyze it, the way you make sense of it is that differentiates. Investment is not a pure science. There is a lot of art part available. You have to use both the right side of the brain as well as the left side of the brain. So curiosity, I think, is equally important. Ability to connecting the dots is equally important. Character is very, very important. I think it was Charles Ellis or who said this, that there are three aspects to becoming a good analyst or a manager. That one which is physically exhausting, which is like collecting as much information as possible. So you read like not last year's annual report, but 10 years annual report. You meet a lot of people, you meet the channel partners, you meet vendors, you meet competitors, you get a lot of macro data, industry data, global data. This is like physically exhausting. Second is what is mentally exhausting, that how the more information actually creates more noise and how do you make sense of it. And then there your ability to like analyze and then make sense of it. And third is which is emotionally exhausting, which is like, as Buffett wrote in this letter, and I think he's written it several times, that what is that, keeping you, I mean, I don't remember the exact word or sentence, but keeping your sanity when everybody else is losing it. This is very important. So let's say somebody's announced, that the government announced demonetization and think, no, the economy will collapse and markets will collapse, but markets may go up for a different reason because there will be more liquidity in the market. People will, I mean, a lot more cash will come into the banking system. And I can give several examples like that. So ability to connect the dots, character is like very important, which is like linked with the, so I got a couple of C's now. Having spoken, so curiosity, character, also the communication, the way you articulate. I mean, unless maybe great is understood something, but unless you are able to articulate it to your client, the buy side, I mean, your client is the fund manager, I mean, unless you are able to articulate it and sell that idea, then it's not relevant. So all of these, I mean, a combination of all of these qualities.
But still, I would like to jump to Pramod. What do you think? Same question, just repeating from your perspective. Typically, when you see your teams or when you see your star performer in your team, how do you think that your analyst is valued more from his or her analytical capability or his or her temperament? Because today, for example, any of your analysts is, let's say, going to meet with Navneet or someone, he or she is going to get like sometimes less than 1 minute, 2 minutes. कहीं जा रहे हैं चाय पीते और जल्दी बोल के आया सुना देते तो फिर चाय पीते पीते it will make or break whether he or she gets a chance to have the cup of tea with Navneet or someone or not, right? And sell that idea to the buy side manager, correct? Right? So how do you feel that part? Whether it is different from what Navneet mentioned?
I don't think it's any different. It's pretty much the same job. Like I said, we are positioning ourselves as an extension of the buy side. To that extent, it's no different. Maybe temperament. If you're a fund manager on the buy side where you have to take those investment decisions, perhaps has a bit more weightage than on the sell side where perhaps the weightage more in terms of understanding the industry, using that understanding to forecast the trends in the industry, particularly earnings and so on. You still have to stick your neck out and make an investment call, but slightly different. I think one thing where sell side has a bit more in terms of a soft skill is writing. I guess the best investment managers also write the best newsletters as well. So it's no different on the buy side, but more so on the sell side because your product, your ideas tend to get consumed by a lot many more people if you have a very powerful writing skill. often overlooked by the Indian education system. Unfortunately, most are, even the best of our institutes, do not focus on developing writing as a skill. Verbal communication sometimes can reach a certain set of people, but imagine a well-written research report can be read by fund managers sitting in any part of the world. You won't be physically be able to touch every one of them. So to that extent, I would recommend most of you to spend time in picking up writing skills. It is often overlooked. And the other aspect is in terms of, nobody talked about character, I would call it courage. You have to have the courage to stand out. In this business, and Navneet and Sampal will vouch for, you don't make money thinking like everybody else. Moment, it's a well appreciated thought. It's perhaps already the price. Contrarian thinking requires a lot of courage. There will be times where your thinking will go wrong. It's about your firm belief and the courage to be able to stand up and stick to your thesis. You might still get it wrong, but as long as you're revisiting that and believing that, most often the biggest gains are made when you're standing out. And more than any analytical skill, to be able to stand up, you need that courage and the bravado to say that, I don't mind getting it wrong. Getting it wrong with the rest of the crowd is worse off than getting it wrong alone. But when you get it right, the rewards.
I think it's still a very subjective part. I will try to conclude this point with coming to you, Sampal. Taking the point from what Navneet and Kamal mentioned. Okay, let's say you are covering a particular industry or let's say a particular company, right? And 3-4 analysts have written a report on that, for example, initiating research on a particular company. And if you leave out the label of the company from the research house where they belong, let's say you just see the research reports, and all the 3 people have done good enough in-depth research report, so the aspect of the competency aspect is met. But you know all those 3 people and you have met them in the past, right? And you have time to just call one person for a meeting to explain more in detail. Which one person you prefer? Or summarizing another way, in simplistic terms, how important is soft skills for career in this part of the world?
So I'll cover that. I think that since I worked in the initial 7-8 years on the sell side, I think sell side job is a bit more difficult than the buy side job. I hope more than
Thanks for
that. In addition to,
as I waited to ask you the last because I knew you would give some different perspective.
in addition to doing a good job about doing the covering the research report and making the research report, you should also be able to communicate very well to a larger audience, which is sitting far away from your place. Whereas in the buy side, you just need to explain to your own fund manager. That's all it is. And you need to be able to put the research in a very well documented 25-30 page format. That's a very difficult job. Having understood what is this company Infosys about is one thing. That's all is ends with buy side. Whereas in the sell side, you have to put all of that you are learning and understanding and your view in a format of 25-30 page report, and be able to get votes from the buy side fund managers and analysts. So in that perspective, I think the skill set required in a sell side job is much more and where the soft skills really play a bigger role. Having said that, coming to your question, which way one would assess the analyst. Initial few years of the career, what we emphasize is more like analytical skill sets. How well he's being able to read the balance sheets and get the data from the companies, etc. That's what we value more because that's what he's taught in the schools, etc. So I expect him to deliver well on the analytical aspect in the initial years. But what makes the difference between the good analyst and successful analyst and not so successful is over the period of time, in addition to your strong analytical skills and communication skills, you should be able to acquire a fine judgment about the business. So that makes a difference. Analytical aspects, you will have that. You have to have. That will be done within the initial 3-4 years. You will get those things. You will understand. Over a period of time, you should be able to judge the businesses, you should be able to judge the products, you should be able to see where the industry is going, which are segments where things are going to go well and which are segments things are not going to go. So the fine judgment makes a lot of difference. So to your question, once if three analysts come through the three different same report, if I remove the name, all I want to know is which of these guys has got really the fine judgment of the the company or the business that he's wrote. I mean, I'm sure the basic data and financial.
The industry bodies, with the media, with the industry at large, and then everybody concerned, how do we build markets in India which are world class, which are efficient, which are ethical. And I think that's a great opportunity that the institute and the society provides.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. Right from the program itself as a learning start to the 3 letters that form a designation brings a huge amount of credibility in this industry, not just in India but globally. I must say that it opens a lot of doors. It is a testimony to the sort of hard work you put in to qualify through this charter and get the charter, and again continue to hold up through continuous learning as well as holding up the high ethical standards that the charter imposes on you. Brings huge amount of credibility in terms of your own career, but also the continuous learning in terms of the networks it provides, and also some of the best content. The CFA journal, which arrives at your desk every often, is a gold mine in terms of information and insights from your fellow CFA charter holders. So, and also the sort of events that the CFA Society India organizes from time to time. It's brilliant. Some of these people, you don't get to speak to them often, but again, these are gold dust for somebody who wants to learn new things.
Completely understand. I think that very good point you made. So many of the events which take place across the country now. Besides Delhi, we have got very active volunteer days in 8 cities, including Delhi, and very unique events keep happening. Typically once a month, once in a fortnight. Very interesting people we bring on the stage. Very often people who we have just read about or heard about. Personally, I will give my example. How many of us are fond of reading the memo from Howard Marks, right? The memo, everybody, right? Howard Marks, Oak Tree Capital. अपन पढ़ते रहते बहुत टाइम, मैं भी पढ़ता था as a young professional. And like about a year back, I mean, only was that an instrumental. We got Howard Marks on the stage, in Mumbai for an event with CFA Society. I mean, in flash and flood, with Howard Marks. I never thought in my life that while I used to start reading the memo, everybody download it and read it and try to analyze and make some context. But very frankly, if I was not part of the CFA community, I would have never got access to seeing Howard Marks in flash and flood, or whatever I'm saying, or hearing in person. Or let's say a lot of things we are doing on commodity side. Basically, we did small workshop on commodities or currency. I mean, not only equities but all asset classes. Whether you belong to a particular segment of the marketplace as a part of your day job, there is a huge opportunity to be aware and be informed about other aspects of the marketplace also on an ongoing basis. And the other thing to summarize, the huge power of the networking platform today. Any part of the world, as Navneet mentioned, if you just go look up on our member platform, who are the CFA charter holders in that part of the country. I mean, I can say from my own experience, recently we have been setting up our passive investments platform, index funds, ETFs. Of course, Navneet has a very big book of index fund and ETF, but it's still very nascent in India. So we were traveling to Hong Kong, and I just looked up a few of the people in that side of the marketplace, and I just reached out, random email that I'm Anil from CFA Society India, and I noticed you are in Hong Kong Society, CFA community, and you are very active in passive funds. I want to be with you for a cup of coffee and understand what's happening. Immediately, really, it's a factual, like about 6-8 months back, and people go out of way to, for that person, I was nowhere connected, not even from business perspective. Oh, you are from BlackRock, I am from XYZ company, I do business, nothing like that. But just because of the sheer power of the CFA network and the CFA platform, we spend almost like 1.5 hours we are chatting about what's happening in this side of the market, how we see India from index funds, ETFs. So some of these things are unique, very differentiated, very powerful. With that, I would like to close this very powerful panel today. A lot of questions. I think the panelists themselves try to answer in their own perspective, trying in some way they sort of guessed what was being asked. Some of the questions I reviewed into my discussion. But I'm sure there will be a lot of other perspectives you want to discuss or want to ask. There is a wonderful lunch after this and a meet and greet session. So please do hold on to those questions and perspectives and raise it to the panelists and many of the other friends and colleagues that you will meet. Thank you very much, guys, and hope you have a wonderful day ahead. All the best. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your being here. And on behalf of the CFA Society and CFA Institute, I would like to, I have the privilege to give you a small moment to sort of thank you. I mean, all of us are actually very much passionate about still just as a small token from the society perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the speakers. Thank you, Anil, for conducting the session so well. We have a coffee break here, and although we have planned it for 15 minutes, but some of the speakers of the next sessions are stuck in traffic outside, so we will resume as soon as possible. All of you can use this time to network with the experts out there. Thank you so much.